welcome to you all, and we are very happy to meet you today virtually. And before going to the subject, we would like to share with you what's happening in Dunkirk. Dunkirk is on the verge on a major revolution, the decarbonization revolution, we could say. And why is it happening? I will explain it to you right now. But before all, to start with my presentation, I would like to explain where Dunkirk is. I guess all of you know, but Dunkirk is in the north of France. We are a conurbation of about 250,000 inhabitants. We are the third port of France, and we aim at getting stronger as far as port traffic is concerned. And there is a strong industrial base in Dunkirk with one of the major steel plants in Europe, ArcelorMittal steel plants. So the industrial sector is very important in Dunkirk. Now, the big issue in France is decarbonization. And we have managed to convince the French government that if the French state wanted to decarbonize France, the priority was to decarbonize the big industrial areas where there are the major carbon dioxide emissions. And as you can see on this map, Dunkirk is one major carbon dioxide emitter in France. We calculated that almost 21% of the carbon emissions in France, 20 to be precise, 20% of carbon emissions in France from industrial origin are from Dunkirk. So we managed to convince the French government that it was good to prioritize Dunkirk and other areas of France to accelerate French decarbonization. And Dunkirk is one of the laureates of the French call for tenders for that was named Zone Industrielle Bas Carbone, industrial areas, low carbon industrial areas, which allows us to get some subsidies to support some studies to accelerate decarbonization in Dunkirk. So how do we proceed? We have three major pillars to achieve decarbonization in Dunkirk. We, of course, circular economy is very important. We try to convince the industrial companies that they should use more recycled materials, and ArcelorMittal is one of them, as well as Aluminium Dunkirk, an aluminium foundry. They will use more and more recycled materials within their own industrial processes. Another pillar is to develop energy efficiency. And also the electrification of industrial processes, and slowly but surely the idea to use hydrogen rather than fossil fuels. And the third pillar, we know that we won't be able to reduce to zero the carbon emissions in the short run. So we try to implement solutions to capture the carbon emissions, and to either use them again, for example, to produce synthetic aviation fuels, or if we cannot use this carbon dioxide, we want to develop solutions to store this carbon dioxide. To achieve these three pillars of decarbonization in Dunkirk, we have realized that we needed to reinforce our infrastructures. The first one that we need to reinforce, to develop, is the grid. The electrification of industrial processes, as well as the new industries, for example, the factories that will produce hydrogen from water electrolysis, they will need a lot of electricity. So the companies managing the grid, and in particular RTE in France, will invest huge amounts of money to reinforce the grid. It will be more than 1 billion euros that will be invested to reinforce the grid. We also realized that we needed more water for the industrial processes, for the new industrial processes, for example, water electrolysis to produce hydrogen. We already have an industrial water network, but we want to expand this industrial water network. So there will be huge investments in the water networks in Dunkirk too. We will have another infrastructure that will have to do with CO2. As I mentioned it before, we want to capture CO2 massively to transport it to a CO2 terminal that will liquefy the CO2 that cannot be reused. And this CO2 will be shipped off Norway to be stored under the sea. It's part of the Northern Lights project you may have heard of. And there will be, parallel to this CO2 network, there will be a hydrogen network over the port of Dunkirk. I will show you a map later. You will see how it will work. And this hydrogen will transport hydrogen that will be massively produced in Dunkirk to where it's needed in the industrial port area. We will also reinforce the natural gas network. And of course, one of the subjects is to decarbonize the natural gas. And we have some companies such as GRT Gas or GRDF that focus a lot on biogas. We already have some biogas plants in Dunkirk, and we have one very powerful one, the more powerful north from Paris. And the last infrastructure we need to develop is a heat network that will use waste heat from industrial companies and that will supply this heat where it's needed, and in particular to the gigafactory Verkor that will produce EVs batteries. And it was one of the arguments, one of the assets of Dunkirk to attract Verkor, that we would be able to supply it at a very competitive price. And here on this slide, and it's my last slide before I leave the floor to Colas to explain a very concrete, if you allow me, a very concrete example of decarbonization. Here on this slide, you can see a map of these infrastructures I told you about. So in red, we have the waste heat network. And the other colors deal with the hydrogen, CO2, and water. On this map, you can see also that we have a lot of renewables developments. The Port of Dunkirk has accepted to welcome 2 solar power plants, 20 megawatts each, that will be deployed within the coming years. We also have a big offshore wind farm project, 600 megawatts, that should be achieved by 2028, 2029 at the latest. We have on the left part of this map the LNG terminal. It's already it's one of the major LNG terminal in Europe, and this will be the place where the CO2 terminal will be implemented, and it's where the CO2 will arrive, will be liquefied and shipped to be stored definitely off Norway. And then I will leave the floor to my friends of Colas, and they will explain us how circular economy and how sustainable development is deployed at their level.
Okay, thank you, Cyrille.
Please, first of all, please excuse me, but I don't speak English very well. So this is why I am with my colleague Edouard Blondeau, which is the sales manager at Colas. So we will present to you our presentation of the economy circular at Colas.
Yes, thank you, Olivier and Cyrille. Very pleased to be here with you today. So, as Olivier said, I'm Edouard Blondeau, sales manager at North of France Colas. So, what I will propose you is to make a very short introduction to what is Colas Group. Then we will speak more specifically about our projects in Dunkirk and some use cases of circular economy. So just to let you know, Colas is a private-owned French company which belongs to Bouygues Group, and we are specialized in road construction. And we deploy some some specific activities such as demolition and safety, road safety. What are we doing in other words is that we build roads, highways, we make some civil engineering works, we work on airport or railway or buses construction sites, as you can see on this slide. We are also an industrial company. We are not only a construction one. We own our own plants, and we try to control the most as we can the supply chain of our construction site. Just a few words about our locations in Europe. So we are a global organization. So we work in the entire world, specifically in Europe. So in the north of France, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, as far as you are concerned. Just to make a focus on the Dunkirk area and the north of France area, we have some construction offices, such as the one we have in Dunkirk. And we have also factory activities, such as asphalt plants or material plants. One thing which is really an issue today for Colas, for Bouygues, and for the whole society, I hope, is our corporate social and responsibility. So in Colas, we created and drive the ACT project, as you can see on this slide. So we really try to take into account the environmental criteria around our construction sites, around our plants, around our activities, to make it more acceptable by the society, all the stakeholders who are involved on our activities, and to, as you mentioned, Dagmar, as well, to reduce our carbon dioxide footprint. As you can see on this slide, it is linked to what Cyrille spoke about previously. We also have a target speaking about our carbon dioxide strategy. That is to say, to reduce, to cut by 30% our CO2 direct emissions by 2030, and to reduce as well our indirect emission, such as the one who are involved in the supply chain construction side. So more or less, in 2022, we produced more than 11 million tons of CO2. So the 30% cut is equal to around 3 million tons of carbon dioxide. In the ACT project, we promote a lot of circular economy. So we really take into account circular economy solutions with our clients, with our partners, and with all the stakeholders who can be involved in the construction decision. So that is to say, invest a lot in R&D to valorize materials, such as what we do, and you will see in a couple of slides with Dunkirk and specifically with the sediment of the harbor. We develop valorization platforms, and we promote their use, and we offer always economic circular solutions for our projects. So that were a few words about Colas. What we do in particular in Dunkirk, we have a subgrade materials recycling platform. So that is to say, we can we take and we are fueled by industrial waste, so as to valorize them into road construction, and in particular in the subgrade materials solution. Where the materials come from, we have a couple of use cases. In our activity, we have the road planning. So that is to say, the time when we withdraw the old road, the building demolition. As I mentioned it before, it's one of Colas activities in France. We have also the existing roadways deconstruction. So in addition of the road planning, which is only the first area on the road, and we have all the earthworks we can do on our construction sites. So that is to say, all the earth moves we withdraw from one site to put on another site, for example. As I mentioned before, we have a sound problem. Can you hear me? Okay, just please do this one. Okay, is it okay? Okay, sorry. So we have also asphalt plants, and which allow us to put some recycled aggregates up to 50% of the mix, the composition of the new materials. So this is a really way to valorize road material waste. Then we move to the use cases of circular economy in the Dunkirk area and moreover in the north of France. We try to use as best as we can the industrial waste. So we have some coal shale from the Arras region, which is 100 kilometers from Dunkirk around. As Cyrille mentioned, we have a huge steel industry in the Dunkirk area, so we are able to use the fly ashes, the aluminous silico fly ashes, to put it in our road materials such as asphalt. We try as much as we can as well to use the non-hazardous waste of incineration, and we can use also the carbonate balls we have from an example from the city of Los near Lille. So you have the figures which are deployed on this slide. And regarding the harbor of Dunkirk and the use we do of dredge sediment, so where first of all the dredge sediment come from? So it comes from the dredging of the harbor basins, for example, the deepening of channel access, and as far as the harbor developments are concerned, these activities are generating dredge sediment. So you can see it's around 50 million cubic meters of sediments dredged in France each year. And Dunkirk is one of the a big supplier of dredge sediment. So in what we do in Colas Dunkirk with the dredge sediment, specifically with the one who come from the harbor of Dunkirk, we can use in subgrade. So in the road construction subgrade, you can see that we use in the year of 2022 more sediment in more than 165,000 square meter. So we are able to mix it with sand as with treated materials such as quicklime to use it in the road construction. And this allows us really to cut off our carbon dioxide emission because thanks to the use of this waste of the harbor, there are less trucks on the roads because we don't have to buy new fresh natural materials and make them carry to our construction sites. And so I I will show you a short video.
Colas est engagé sur le sujet des sédiments marins depuis près de 20 ans. En 2012, Colas a réalisé un premier démonstrateur en collaboration avec l'Institut Mines Télécom. Avec la route du Fraissinet 12, nous avons prouvé que la valorisation des sédiments permet d'atteindre les performances mécaniques exigées sans impact environnemental sur le milieu. Fort de cette expérience, nous avons proposé de substituer l'intégralité des matériaux d'apport pour la couche de forme par des sédiments pour la construction du quai des Flandres.
Colas France a eu la chance d'être adjudicataire de cette opération sur une variante qui consistait principalement à retraiter le sable en place avec ajout d'un matériau correcteur. Nous avons proposé au Grand Port Maritime d'utiliser des sédiments qui sont stockés en masse sur le domaine portuaire.
L'emploi de sédiments marins en technique routière est un très bon exemple de valorisation des déchets. Sur ce chantier, nous avons l'opportunité d'utiliser les sédiments marins dragués par le Grand Port Maritime de Dunkerque comme des matériaux de construction, alors même qu'ils sont considérés par la réglementation comme des déchets non dangereux, non inertes.
Nous avons mené des études en laboratoire en amont du chantier et les résultats des contrôles sont aujourd'hui tout à fait conformes aux attentes.
Bien entendu, nous avons mené des études scientifiques pour nous assurer que cette technique ne présente aucun danger pour l'environnement.
C'est un ouvrage, c'est un terre-plein qui doit répondre à des exigences pour pouvoir supporter du stockage de containers, de la circulation de stackers. Et donc l'objectif, avant tout, c'est de livrer une plateforme qui corresponde aux attentes du client. L'économie circulaire, c'est un leitmotiv sur l'ensemble de nos opérations, que ce soit des opérations publiques ou privées.
Avec cette solution, nous sommes vraiment dans une démarche d'économie circulaire et ce, à plusieurs titres. Premièrement, nous préservons la ressource puisque nous économisons les matériaux qui normalement devraient venir de carrière. Par conséquent, on réduit en proportion les camions sur la route avec toutes les nuisances associées comme le bruit, la poussière, les vibrations et bien entendu le risque routier. Deuxièmement, sans cette solution, les sédiments marins devraient partir dans une installation de stockage définitif ou alors rester sur le port pour une période indéfinie en occupant une surface foncière non négligeable.
On a envie d'être acteur aux côtés de nos clients pour pouvoir promouvoir cette réutilisation des matériaux et puis penser aussi à l'avenir. On a eu la chance d'avoir un maître d'ouvrage, donc le Grand Port Maritime, qui était à l'écoute, qui était prêt à se lancer sur cette expérience. Ce qui est fait sur Dunkerque peut être reproductible dans d'autres endroits.
On est en plein dans la démarche acte du groupe Colas. L'idée, c'est de continuer à développer ce type de solution en collaboration avec tous nos partenaires.
Cette démarche innovante se traduit concrètement par une économie de près de 36 300 tonnes de matériaux naturels. Et il faut préciser que cette nouvelle plateforme multimodale de 165 000 m² n'a pas d'équivalent en termes d'usage de sédiments non inertes, non dangereux, en substitution de ressources naturelles. C'est une première dans le domaine de l'économie circulaire.
C'est une fierté, je pense qu'il faut qu'on pense à nos enfants et nos petits-enfants.
Il y a une réelle fierté puisqu'on sait qu'on fait quelque chose de vertueux, on est vraiment dans l'air du temps et on fait quelque chose de techniquement aussi sûr que nos solutions dites traditionnelles.
Sorry, we didn't mention it was in French, but obviously translated with English subtitles.
Yeah, it was clear. And I think the film made it very obvious what you're doing. It's very clear to understand. Thank you very much. You are ready with your presentation?
Yes. that's it
Yeah,
for
maybe then
start.
you stop sharing so we can see you a little bit better.
Non, il faut arrêter. Pour retourner sur le Teams.
Oui.
Arrêter le partage.
Ok, here we are. C'est bon.
Well, thank you very much. Very impressive what you've been showing. Very ambitious, and also in practice, you're really doing things. This is really very nice to see. Well, I have a couple of questions, but of course, I would like first to ask whether somebody in the audience would like to ask something. Yeah, Simon.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, apologies that I was a bit later because I had another meeting, I had to jump off. So thank you very much from Krefeld, your sister city in Dunkirk. And yeah, I had a look at the slides beforehand of Cyrille, and also quite impressive what you're doing, how you're using your industrial base for circular economy. This is really a good example also for industrial-based cities. My question would be also regarding the direction of Cyrille. When a new enterprise is interested in going to Dunkirk, do they really look also to other enterprises who are already there, where they can use maybe some materials or products, or is it also a goal from your side, from Dunkirk Promotion, to really to connect these companies to other companies to really think forward into a circular economy?
It's a good question. Of course, we try to connect companies together. Can I say that the companies coming to Dunkirk are already interested in partnering with other companies as far as circular economy is concerned? I'm not so sure. Their priority is mainly to be sure that there are enough utilities available, for example, enough electricity, enough gas, enough industrial water, enough natural gas. They need to be reassured about that. It's a priority, as well as also the availability of workforce. That's the key issues that we have to deal with in the first instance. But then, of course, when we go further into the project, we try to convince them that it's very important to think about circular economy. I will take the example of water. During the implementation process, during the setting up process, we try to convince the investor to meet the water agency of Dunkirk, who is managing the water network in Dunkirk, because we believe that they have to think about optimizing their water needs and their water processes within their own industrial processes. I give you an example. As you know, Dunkirk will welcome some gigafactories, batteries, EVs, batteries gigafactories, and some of them used to ask us if we could provide 20 million cubic meters industrial water. And it's already the capacity of the existing network, and most of the capacity is already used by ArcelorMittal. So we try to convince them that it's time to meet the local water agency to check if it's possible to optimize their water use and to think about closing the loop, for example, to have a closed loop water use. And then we know that if they accept to meet the local water agency, and if they accept that some studies being done, then we can very significantly reduce the need for industrial water. So that's one thing, a very important thing. And we developed another tool to convince companies to act together and to get in touch together. In the beginning of the year 2000, in 2001 to be precise, we created an association called ECOPAL that is specialized in circular economy. And ECOPAL works with the local companies to convince them to work together to see if their co-products, for example, could be the raw materials of another one. And that's the initiative we set up. And we, of course, every time we try to convince companies even the new ones, to get in touch with Ecopal to see if some circular economy can be implemented within their own processes. I hope.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is good to understand how this works. Sijan, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Olivier and Cyrille, for the fantastic presentation. I just have question in continuation to Simon's question, because you're talking about the network of companies and stakeholders. So do you, my question goes back to your first slide where you're showing the very strategic location of Dunkirk, which is on the Belgian and French border. So I wanted to understand, do you only look within the French borders, or do you also try to collaborate across and try to see how, because of course it's going to impact both?
Yes.
You want to answer to it, Cyrille, or?
Maybe you can also answer it.
Thank you for the question. As far as Colas is concerned, we have a subsidiary in Belgium. So as far as our office is concerned, we work in particular in Dunkirk area and in the French part of the border, in the north of France. But on specific projects, we can work along with our Belgian colleagues, such as, I don't know, a huge railway construction site, a bus construction site, highways. But from the day-to-day work, we focus on our Dunkirk area.
Yeah, maybe it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in addition to that, I would like to say that we have some good communication with our Belgian neighbors, in particular as far as water management is concerned. With the Flanders part of Belgium, we share the same issue of water management, in that both territories are below the sea level. So we have a common initiative called GECT, Groupement Économique de Coopération Transfrontalier. I could translate it into English with the following words: a kind of cross-border working group as far as economics is concerned, and we regularly meet at least 1 or 2 times a year to see how we can work together to have a better water management, to try to mitigate the global environmental changes.
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure who to answer. Edouard, I was yesterday when we talked about why you're not working in Belgium, you were mentioning that this is a lot because of the national regulations, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit more on that? What kind of things you're running into?
Yes, you're right. We have a subsidiary in Belgium and in each country, which allows a group to focus on the national regulation, as you mentioned, because as I mentioned previously, in France, we can, just an example to make it clear for everyone, for asphalt mix, in France, we are allowed to put some aggregates up to 50% of the formula, and it can differ, it can change depending the region, the country where you work in. So this kind of regulations, even if we are speaking about European regulation, it's a good thing. Sometimes we are facing a national regulation which maybe make us less competitive than local companies.
Thank you. Since the ESSA project is focusing a lot on space, and you saw it on all your slides, you see huge space. You need a lot of space, right?
Sure.
I would be interested how do you see it with the circular economy? Is this, in your experience, do you think this is claiming more space? Do you need more space for storage?
I don't know if I can say more space, but I think we have to be upstream in the discussions with authorities, with local government, with customers, with stakeholders. So sometimes, yes, we are looking for more space, but I think we can do it in the clever way. The most clever way is to be involved in the discussions before big projects, as Cyrille mentioned before. So sometimes, yes, we can need help from the cities, from the region, from agencies such as Dunkirk Promotion, to be able to find the right place to store our materials, to use our recycled materials, and to be fueled also by the co-products such as sediments. So yes, we are looking for space, but I think the best way to do it is to be involved upstream in the discussions.
Yeah. And when you look for spaces, do you have any special things that you're looking for? Are you very much looking at, for example, transport by boats, or because you're having very asphalt, very heavy materials, or are you looking more for highways, trains? What are the logistical questions you have?
Well, it can really depend of the project concern, but yes, the place for storage, storage and use of materials are a big issue for companies like us, and it will depend, yes, of the project which is concerned. If it's a highway construction, we can multiply the storage places. So maybe to reduce the transport footprint, we will have to have several storage places. And we will have to have facility around our asphalt plants, our factories, our materials factories. So this is a kind of place or space we will be provided to. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, I'm looking at Olivier. You're from the city. I know you're from the economic development department, but do you have the spatial planning offices very strongly involved in your project?
Cyrille, you want to?
Cyrille?
Yes and no. Urban planning is very important, and we have a big urban planning agency called AGUR that tries to help the territory to anticipate things. And one of the major subjects nowadays is to try to evaluate the impact of these new industrial developments on road traffic. And of course, decisions will have to be made, but for the moment, all the developments I mentioned in my few slides in the beginning are quite new, and we are very under pressure. So it's hard to tell what kind of decisions will be made. One thing is sure, one thing I can tell, the Port of Dunkirk really tries to be multimodal and tries to make sure that all the port industrial areas can be reached by train, for example. And one of the big advantages of Dunkirk Port is that they own their own railroads. So if they want to invest in some new railroads on their own territory, the decision is more easy to make than if it was the French SNCF to be, or the French Réseau Ferré de France, the national organization that manages the French railway network. So that's one of the few things I can say about the development of transport infrastructures in Dunkirk. But the real goal is really to become more multimodal. And I could also add to this transportation or transport infrastructure issues. I can also say that there is another challenge, an additional challenge that the president of the urban community of Dunkirk gave us, the big challenge would be that the new companies setting up in Dunkirk, the gigafactories themselves, that there would be gigafactories without park places. And that's a big challenge, believe me.
Excuse me, I
But-
didn't understand. Without what?
The president of the urban community of Dunkirk would like that the new companies setting up in Dunkirk, we have many big companies that will set up in the next decade, within the next decade in Dunkirk, and he would like that these companies had no park places.
But no parking.
No parking, no parking.
Oh.
And it's a major challenge. It means more public transportation. You know that in Dunkirk, public transportation is free 24/7 and all year long. So he wants to reinforce the public transportation in Dunkirk and to have a better supply as far as industrial areas is concerned, that every employee can reach its company with the public transportation in a very short amount of time. It's very ambitious to think that tomorrow we'll have factories without parkings. But when we see how the city centers evolved in the last decades in Europe, why not? Before we could see cars parking in the main place, in the main squares of the cities, and now we don't see any cars anymore in the main squares. So and we have park places outside the city centers. So why not? It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Very inspiring. We have a lot of parking around Schiphol, for example, in Amsterdam. Does somebody else have a question, maybe? I don't want to take the floor all the time. I'm also looking at the time, so I would have like shortly, because we're very much focused on this Eurodelta and the cooperation in the Eurodelta. I was wondering, how would cooperation of cities, of harbor cities, especially, for example, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Krefeld, Duisburg, how could that, do you think it would help you to upscale, for example, the information you learned? Would it help you to learn from other cities, other harbors, or is this something you're doing anyway?
Tricky question.
Hi, Vincent from the city of Amsterdam. Obviously, we love learning and seeing best practices around Europe. So I think it's definitely helpful to learn about this and exchange what works, and especially also what doesn't work. Most cities aren't keen on sharing that. So especially also learning from each other what hasn't worked in the past, so we won't repeat mistakes, is something that I would also prefer to see exchanged more.
Okay. Well, I take this as a very nice last word. Would you like to have any questions for us before we close? Olivier, Edouard, Cyrille? No? We are running out of time. Okay, thank you very much. I think I would like to continue talking to you. I hope we are having a chance to meet in live and discuss this. You are associated partner of the project, so we will keep in contact. And I want to thank everybody that you took your time for lunch with nice weather outside, at least here in Amsterdam, to join us. And I just wanted to say that the next meeting, we are going to have the province of South Holland coming, and they will talk about a spatial strategy for a circular province of South Holland. We are right now searching for the date because of Easter holidays. So just follow our LinkedIn site, and I think many of you get the information always already. And if you would like to you don't get the Outlook invitation, you would like to receive an Outlook invitation, please send an email to the SURE website. Tijan, can you share the address in the chat?
Yes.
And then we make sure that you get an invitation for the meet and learns, which we have every month. We try to have one meet and learn. Yeah, about the circular built environment. So we're going to do it together. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice end of week.